So thinking about a career change, one that involves maybe some wagging tails, a little slobber. We're diving into the world of guide dog instructors today.
And I'm telling you, this is going to be fascinating. You sent over some really cool stuff from RoleCatcher about, what it takes to do this kind of work.
It's not just teaching sit and stay, right?
No, not even close. I mean, we're talking about building a bridge between a highly trained dog and a person who needs them for independence.
Pretty amazing partnership when you think about it.
It is, and it's really remarkable what goes into that.
Okay, you said bridge, and I think that's perfect. But before we get into all the emotional stuff, which I definitely want to get into, let's, break down what a guide dog instructor actually does day to day.
Well, according to RoleCatcher, it seems like a pretty multifaceted job. You're obviously training the dogs, teaching them to navigate a world that's, well, made for people who can see.
Which means you need to really understand how dogs learn, right? Every dog's different.
Exactly. And every person is different too. Matching the right dog with the right person, that's huge in this field. RoleCatcher even gave this example. Imagine you're working with someone who's had a guide dog for years, but their dog just retired.
Oh, man.
Heartbreaking. Right. They're probably heartbroken, a little unsure about starting over. As an instructor, you're not just thinking about, like, the dog skills. You have to think about the person's, well, everything. Their needs, their lifestyle, even their personality.
It's like matchmaking,
Yeah.
but with someone's well-being on the line. RoleCatcher uses the phrase emotionally demanding. Is that putting it mildly?
Not at all. There's a quote from an instructor in the guide. Let me see if I can find it. They said, "You cry more than you think you will, but it's tears of joy just as often as heartbreak."
Wow. That really says it all, doesn't it? Okay, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Maybe let's shift gears for a second and talk about the more practical stuff, like how someone actually becomes guide dog instructor. Did RoleCatcher lay out a clear path for that?
That's what I found interesting. There isn't one specific degree or like a universal certification that's required. They mention animal science, vet, med, even psychology as being good backgrounds to have.
Well, that makes sense though, right? You've got the animal side, but then there's the whole human element too. Understanding behavior and how people learn.
Right. You've got to connect with both dog and human. But hands-on experience is really where it's at, according to RoleCatcher. Volunteering at guide dog places, being a dog trainer, even just interning at a school, they say that's crucial.
So book smarts are one thing, but you really need that real-world experience.
Exactly. One instructor even said, and I'm paraphrasing here, you can read every book under the sun about canine behavior, but until you've felt that leash tug when a dog is guiding someone around an obstacle, you just don't get it.
Okay, now that's giving me chills. You're not just, like, training an animal. You're shaping a partnership that could change somebody's life.
And that brings us to something else RoleCatcher really stresses, the interview process. Landing a job like this, it's not as simple as saying, "I love dogs." They really put you to the test to make sure you can handle it.
So let's dive into those interviews because I have a feeling they get pretty intense.
They do. RoleCatcher gave some examples. One question was, how do you handle a situation where a guide dog isn't, performing as expected?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You can't exactly just, like, whip out a dog training book in the middle of a crosswalk.
Exactly. You got to think on your feet, right? What's going on with the dog? Are they distracted? Is it like a loud noise or something?
I have to be part detective, part dog whisperer.
And part therapist, probably.
Yeah.
And then there's this other question they mentioned. How do you even assess if a dog is suitable to be a guide dog in the first place?
Right, because it's not just about picking the cutest puppy out of the bunch.
Nope. Temperament is huge, obviously. You need a dog that's, calm, focused, able to handle, like, pressure. RoleCatcher mentioned Labrador Retrievers being a popular breed for this kind of work.
Yeah, labs are great. But even within a breed, every dog's an individual, right?
Totally. RoleCatcher talked about these puppy aptitude tests they use to see, which dogs have that natural potential. They look at confidence, how they deal with distractions, problem-solving skills. It's really interesting.
Like a standardized test, but for future guide dogs.
Exactly. It's amazing how much goes into it. But speaking of amazing, we should talk about the technology side of this career path and how RoleCatcher is using AI to help people get into this field.
Yes. We've been mentioning RoleCatcher's AI, but how does it actually work? Give us the details.
Okay, so imagine, having your own personalized career coach available 24/7. That's kind of what RoleCatcher's AI is going for.
And we saw that, right? with the really specific examples they gave us about interview questions and even the stuff about dog breeds. It wasn't just general career advice.
Exactly, it's tailored. But here's where it gets really wild. RoleCatcher analyzes actual job descriptions.
Okay, so say I see a guide dog instructor position open up at, like, my dream training center. I put the job description into RoleCatcher. Then what?
Then the AI goes to work. It takes your resume or your CV and compares it to that job description. It's looking for keywords, skills, experience, stuff like that.
So it tells you if your resume is actually, like, hitting the mark. That's so helpful.
Yeah, and it goes even further. It offers suggestions for improvement. Maybe you didn't emphasize the right skills or you forgot to mention something relevant. RoleCatcher will point that out.
That's amazing. It's like a secret weapon for your job hunt,
Yeah.
especially in a competitive field like this.
Exactly. And speaking of the job itself, let's talk about the actual work environment for a second. Where do guide dog instructors spend their days? Is it all like sunshine and, those perfectly green training fields?
So not all sunshine and perfectly manicured training fields, huh? Where do guide dog instructors actually spend their time?
It really varies, actually. RoleCatcher made it sound pretty dynamic. You could be in a classroom working with like a group of dogs and their handlers. Or, you could be out on a busy city street, in a park, even a crowded mall.
Right, got to prepare these dogs for, well, real life, right. The world doesn't stop just because you're having a bad day.
Exactly. It's challenging, for sure. But that's part of what makes it rewarding. You're always adapting, solving problems, helping those dogs build the confidence to handle, well, anything.
I imagine it takes a pretty special person to do that, someone who's up for a challenge. But let's talk about the career path itself for a second. Beyond just like getting to work with dogs every day, what does RoleCatcher say about the job outlook?
They don't get too specific about things like salary, but they do talk about growth potential. You might start as an assistant instructor, then, as you gain experience, you can move up to a senior role, even lead your own programs.
So room to grow if you're
Mhm.
passionate about it. What about like specializing? Did RoleCatcher mention anything about that?
Yeah, actually, they said some instructors specialize in working with a certain breed. Like we talked about Labradors, but there's also German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers. Those are all common guide dog breeds.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Each breed has its own personality quirks, right?
Yeah.
You could become like the go-to expert for like a golden retriever guide dog.
Exactly. And, technology plays a role too. RoleCatcher even mentioned using GPS to help track the dogs during training and even assist them with navigating new places.
Okay, now that's just cool. Blending those traditional training methods with cutting-edge tech.
Yeah.
But it still all comes back to that human-animal bond at the end of the day, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, technology can enhance things, but this job is really about that connection between a guide dog and their human. And as an instructor, you get to be a part of that, seeing how it changes people's lives. That's going to be amazing.
It really does sound like an incredible career path. And RoleCatcher gave us a lot to think about today. We learned about the emotional challenges of being a guide dog instructor, the hands-on experience you need, and of course how RoleCatcher's AI is changing the game when it comes to, finding the right job for you.
It's pretty impressive how technology is helping people pursue these kinds of careers that make a real difference.
Well said. This deep dive definitely got me thinking, and maybe even sparked a dream or two for some of our listeners. But it also got me wondering, what happens when a guide dog retires? Do they get to just, like, chill out with their handler, or is there a whole other chapter waiting for them? That's something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of guide dog instructors.